Hi there, I'm Dustin Woods, Associate Editor for AutoTrader.ca.
And I'm Sami, Haj-Assaad.
And today, we're testing 3 all-wheel drive, 3-row SUVs.
Now, people buy these vehicles because they're rugged enough to tackle any conditions, they're very safe, and they're extremely spacious.
The vehicles we have here today vary in price and also their offerings of options and amenities.
Now, we spent the last few days test driving all 3 of these vehicles, and we've come up with a pretty good list of pros and cons, as well as things to look out for if you're considering buying one.
Let's get started then, shall we?
Absolutely.
The Ascent is Subaru's biggest vehicle, and it actually uses the same platform as the Impreza compact sedan and the popular Forester. Out of the 3 vehicles, this actually has the least horsepower but the most torque, and comes in at a lower RPM from the 2.4-liter turbo boxer engine. It's mated to a CVT transmission, where the other 2 vehicles have an 8-speed automatic. The Ascent features an impressive suite of standard safety equipment. That means you get adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assistance, and automatic emergency braking. That's huge, since you don't have to get the highest trim level to get these safety features. In fact, the Ascent we have here today is the most affordable model and still features helpful driving assistance technology. If you want items like rear automatic braking or blind spot monitoring, you'll need to opt for one of the higher trim levels. So this particular model is less expensive than the others, and for this trim level, you don't get ventilated seats at all. You get heated seats only in the front. You don't get a charging pad, but you do get 4 USB charging ports. You do also get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto availability. You don't get keyless entry, and you don't get leather seats. However, all of these things are available on higher trim level models. And of course, you get Subaru's asymmetrical all-wheel drive and X-Mode feature. So if you're the one paying the bills on a Subaru Ascent, you might not be the one sitting in the back seat, but you also might care about your occupants and their comfort. So there isn't really as much going on back here. You don't have the climate controls, there isn't heated or ventilated seating in the rear. There's also virtually cup holders everywhere you can possibly imagine. Now in this particular trim level, you don't get the power opening and closing lift gate, which is a rarity in this group of vehicles we're testing today. The Ascent does have the least amount of storage space in the back. However, the seats are the easiest to move up and back. As well, the second row seating moves fore and aft to allow for more room and more versatility.
Next up, we have the Telluride, Kia's latest 3-row vehicle, and one that leaves an impression on everyone who sees it. Personally, I love the looks. It's boxy and it looks large and in charge. You just can't ignore it. Now, fortunately for Kia, they back up that design with a gorgeous interior and one that's full of features. You'll be making double takes this interior, insisting it's too good for a Kia. It's true, the interior is top-notch with a great blend of materials and excellent sound insulation. The only thing you really hear is the wind. But when it comes to noise, that's important, as parents won't have to strain their voice yelling at kids in the back, like my parents used to. Actually, there's a microphone PA system in here, so parents can make sure they're heard. Alternatively, the Telluride has a neat feature to turn off all the speakers in the back of the vehicle, so if the kids are sleeping back there, the parents up front can still enjoy some media. In terms of technology, the Telluride has you covered, with just about every safety feature you can imagine. There's automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assistance, and even a blind spot monitor. In fact, the blind spot monitor even displays a video feed of what's happening beside the car, which can be helpful in city driving. Helping you park the Telluride is a set of front and rear parking sensors. There's also a wireless phone charger, a large 10.25-inch infotainment system with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, as well as navigation. And folks in the second row won't feel like they're second-class citizens, as they get heated and ventilated seats, a rarity in 3-road crossovers. Well, what good are all those family-friendly features if the car wasn't spacious either? Well, fortunately, the Telluride has space for all of your kids and all of their stuff as well. In fact, in almost every measurement, the Telluride exceeds the other vehicles in this comparison. With the seats up or down, you're going to get more space in the Kia. The Telluride is a little bit expensive, and you might be thinking you're getting a lot for that money. I mean, it's a gorgeous exterior and a beautiful interior as well. So you get into this vehicle for around $45,000, and it scales all the way up to just around $54,000, which is what we've got here today. However, the Palisade is just $4 more expensive. So let's see how big of a difference that little bit of money can make. At $54,199, the Palisade is just $4 more expensive than the Telluride, but that money goes a long way. But let's clear something up first. The Telluride and the Palisade are almost identical in terms of spec. You see, they use the same platform and powertrain, but each automaker has tuned and styled their cars very differently depending on their customers and needs. And let me tell you, the differences, especially when you jump inside these cars, are huge. The Palisade features the same powertrain as the Telluride, so you'll find that 3.8-liter V6 with 291 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. It's also paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive, although base Palisade models can be had with front-wheel drive, for those looking to save some money. In terms of interior technology, the Palisade also one-ups the Telluride with this fully digital gauge cluster. It really brings the wow factor. Now, this car also uses the same 10.25 navigation and infotainment screen, and it also has support for your smartphones. But what people really appreciate is all of the hidden USB ports. They're even hidden back here in the seats, so they look kind of clever. There's a whopping 7 USB ports total in this car. Now, normally I'd warn buyers of family cars to steer clear of light-colored interiors because kids can get this stuff pretty dirty. But just take a look at this. It's a class above. It looks gorgeous. And when compared to the Telluride, it's just as spacious. But the Palisade has a few more cubbies and storage areas, which goes a long way for families. The second and third row in the Palisade are also powered, which is handy if you don't want to lean over and yank at random straps in order to increase the cargo volume. Now, in comparison to the Telluride, the Palisade has just a little bit less cargo volume. So that means all of these electronics and cargo cubbies really eat up into the space. But as a vehicle that you're just gonna throw all of your stuff in and live in on a day-to-day basis, this Palisade won't let you down.
So we are driving in the Subaru Ascent convenience package. This vehicle has less horsepower than the other two, but it has more torque, and it comes in at a lower RPM, at around 2,000 RPM. Mated to a CVT, where those are mated to an 8-speed automatic. Power is pretty linear, it's very predictable. Suspension is also a little bit noisier. Going over speed bumps or uneven road, hear it a little bit more than I think is appropriate. Steering is more precise than the other two vehicles as well and has better feel. And braking is good. I can't really think of anything that I specifically dislike about this vehicle. It drives like a much smaller vehicle than it actually is. It's based on Subaru's global architecture, so it's the same platform that Impreza would be built on. It's a well sorted out chassis, and it's decent to drive. It handles well. There's really nothing to dislike about this vehicle. It just doesn't have the same value per dollar as the other two vehicles happen to have in this comparison. With a starting price of just $36,000 and a fully loaded price of around $51,000, the Ascent is a great bet for budget-minded consumers. But it's just not the perfect choice out of these three vehicles here today.
When you drive the Kia Telluride, you will immediately notice just how much more refined this is compared to the Subaru Ascent. Now, I'm this close to calling it the most refined out of the group, but that just isn't the case. You see, for whatever reason, Kia has tuned this vehicle to be a little bit more rugged. That means that it's going to be more friendly off-road than it is on-road, and that means that it's a little bit looser on smooth roads. The Palisade really excels in that situation. Now, this car almost gets an IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus rating. Almost. In fact, there's just a very small thing that needs to be adjusted for Kia to earn that award, and I think it has something to do with the headlights. The Telluride also boasts a higher tow rating than the other two cars, with a maximum of 5,000 pounds. That might be a major factor for buyers who frequent the cottage and need to tow a boat or some toys. Now, on the road, the Telluride feels confident with plenty of passing power, but I can't help but feel that I'm piloting a seriously large vehicle. It doesn't feel as nimble as the Ascent, but it does feel great when passing traffic on the highway. There are a few drive modes that can help you find a sweet spot for yourself, as more aggressive drivers will likely use the Sport mode, and more conscious buyers will swing towards the Eco or Smart modes. Unfortunately for the Kia, it's less fuel-friendly than the Subaru. I'll also suggest that the steering could be tightened up a bit, as the vehicle can just feel a bit too lumbering at times. The ride is fairly smooth though, thanks to a self-leveling rear suspension system. When you drive the Hyundai Palisade, you'd probably expect it to drive a lot like the Kia Telluride, but that really isn't the case. Now, you might not know this, but the Palisade actually came out a little bit later than the Telluride. And I think as a result, Hyundai has spent the time to refine a little bit of the things that the Telluride just didn't nail. For example, this car feels so good on the road. And somehow, Hyundai has made this car even quieter. Now, I wonder why they would spend all of that time making the vehicle so distinctly different when the Telluride is pretty good. But as a result, the Palisade just feels more premium, more upscale, and it really does feel like a special vehicle. And that's something that you really don't get in the other two cars that we have here today. What I absolutely love about this vehicle, though, is just the amount of technology at your disposal. For example, you've got this huge, gorgeous digital gauge cluster, and there's also a wicked head-up display. Now, if that isn't helpful information, the car also tells you, just like the Telluride, whether or not there's someone in your blind spot using a video camera feed. Basically, you have no excuses if there's someone in your blind spot and you don't see them.
After piloting these three vehicles over the last few days through various conditions, we have come to a unanimous decision. However, we've also come to the conclusion that there are no bad options here.
Definitely. Depending on your needs and budget, any of these three vehicles is easy to recommend. But for us, we've picked the Hyundai Palisade as the winner of this comparison. Yes, it is more expensive, but it's a class above in terms of comfort, premium features, as well as having so much technology.
It's true, you really do get a lot for the money. To read the full review, visit AutoTrader.ca. Thanks a lot for watching.